Hello, welcome. This is Dr. Ben Rader with Public Education, and we're here today for a compelling discussion here involving Public Education's Jamal Cunningham and Dr. Brian Smothers, who is longstanding faculty at Wisconsin School of Professional Psychology and also has his own practice. Milwaukee is a partner of Milwaukee Psychotherapy Collaborative. Gentlemen, I'm so excited to have both of you here and to be able to talk about this. And today we're just talking about how does psychotherapy work? Because it seems to be something that more and more people are needing to turn to counseling and therapy nowadays. And the mechanics and the efficacy of psychotherapy is something I think people are curious about. And so how does psychotherapy work?
Thanks for having me, Ben and Jamal. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I do think this is a really interesting time to be talking about this because so many people are seeking psychotherapy services. You know, we were just chatting before we jumped on about the pandemic, and I think it's a difficult time for so many people, and they're experiencing those challenges in their relationships with their kids, with their extended family, just with their jobs, and challenges, what we call challenges in living. And I think psychotherapy is a good resource for those individuals. And I don't know about you two, but I've been getting a lot of calls at the office just to help people like that. So maybe a good place to start is just defining psychotherapy and kind of starting with that, and then we'll jump off from there. But you know, I think for me, psychotherapy is probably easiest to define without making it too complicated, is to say it's a conversation or it's a relationship between two people, usually, sometimes more, sometimes a family, sometimes a couple. But usually it's two people having a conversation or who are committed to work on one person's challenges, who come into psychotherapy with certain specific challenges and they want help with it. But the commitment is there to work on those challenges. Oftentimes it happens through talking and talking about life and what's going on in someone's life and the therapist listening. Of course, if you're a kid or you're not accustomed to talking, kind of like we are right now, you might work more in play. So children might be playing more than they are talking. So there are other ways of engaging, but really it's a committed relationship that's about helping someone change certain situations in their life that they're facing, or to adapt to situations that we might not be able to change. So I think that's kind of an easy way to talk about it. We don't have to make it more complicated than it really is.
You know, and I totally agree. I think you brought a really good point when you were saying about, you know, working on challenges. I mean, people think about psychotherapy, sometimes we think about the average person who may not have been to therapy or hasn't been trained in mental health. You know, they probably have questions about, you know, what does that work look like? You know, So if you can give us a little insight, what does the work look like? How does psychotherapy work for the average person?
Yeah. So I think psychotherapy for most people will look like coming into someone's office, kind of like this. We sit down and the therapist, like myself, is really interested in what's going on in your life, especially the situations that you're coming in to talk about. For many people, those are immediate challenges in their life. For some, it's been situations that they've been living with for a long time. But, you know, if you think about your own problems, you kind of get used to looking at them a certain way. We have ideas about why we're having these problems, and sometimes we just need someone else to listen to our story and to kind of say, you know, I hear you talking about it this way, and I'm wondering if you hear that too. So it's two people talking together about their situation, about their life, and trying to come up with some new solutions that maybe we wouldn't find on our own. Now, sometimes psychotherapy will involve more than two people, like you might come in with your entire family. So it could be a group where you're coming in with a group of other individuals, or it might be a child and their family or a couple. But most often it happens around this situation or this setting where we're sitting around talking about what's happening in your life.
That makes a lot of sense. And, you know, we're using the word psychotherapy a lot. And I know some people may say, well, I heard of counseling. You know, I've heard of coaching. You know, I heard, you know, or just therapy without the psycho part, right? You know, is there a difference between psychotherapy and counseling and coaching?
Yeah, you brought up a really good point without saying it. The psycho part doesn't help us, right? I mean, we have this kind of way of talking about things that make it sound much crazier. And I'm not sure that that's very helpful when we think about psychotherapy. Kind of the origin of that word, though, is interesting, though. It was really kind of referenced as part of our inner self, our soul, not necessarily in a religious aspect, but the parts that make us uniquely who we are. So it's not necessarily psycho, but counseling, coaching, those are other terms. And I think really, if we step back, we're all trying to do the same thing in a different ways. We're trying to be helpful to our clients who come in with certain life challenges or situations that they want to change. Counseling, I would say, is a bit more of a generic term in some ways. You know, we can think about counseling like financial counseling or other types of counseling that are really focused on one type of problem. But I imagine that people who do counseling, that they define that because it's based on their training, that they were trained as licensed professional counselors, and that's a term that's more familiar to them. But in the same way as counseling and psychotherapy, we're both committed to helping the person who's across from us. Some people might say that counseling is more problem focused, like the immediate situation that brings someone in, where psychotherapy might take a more holistic approach, might listen to how the person developed, how their story, where they come from, who they are in the world, and use more of those pieces or elements of their history to help them understand how they got into the situation. But, you know, when I say that out loud, I'm not sure that counselors don't do that either. I think we all do that. Coaches, on the other hand, I think, again, are focused on helping people, but they might take a more specific and active approach to challenging or to tackling one specific problem. But really, I think we're all in the helping profession, helping people get to where they want to be in life.